Hi guys, and welcome to the third episode of my Mads Writes Ads vlog series. You might notice that we've got a different layout this time. This is the face of success because I've just finally sorted out the audio and the layout of this new software and wrapped my head around it. So I'm really excited to see how this video turns out after I've edited it. But basically today we're going to be talking about how you create, pause and activate campaigns in Google Ads. This is one of the first things you need to learn about working in the platform, and I'm going to go through doing it online and offline, so you can either do it in Google Ads itself or you can do it offline in Google Ads Editor and then you can post it live from there. So I'll go over all of the options for creation, pausing and activating campaigns. I hope you enjoy the video and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you! Cool, so I'm going to jump right in with how to create a campaign in AdWords Editor. So this is a software you can download. I'll drop a link in the bio for working offline. So any changes I make here won't impact what's currently running in my Google Ads activity until I post them live in the top right corner here. So once you've downloaded this and signed in and pulled your account, if you've already done that, you'll want to get more data, recent changes, so you can see the most up-to-date view of the account. On the left side here, you've obviously got the account, the shared library, which is where you'll apply any negative keyword lists or extensions, custom rules, errors, so on, but we're going to really focus on the campaigns today. So here where the button says add campaign, that's where we're going to start, and the first decision we need to make is what to call our campaign. I can do a whole video in its own right about a campaign structure, but today I'm going to focus on search campaigns, so I'm going to start with an S and a pipe. So there's a load of campaign types, and essentially you want to name your campaign something that it's clear what it's doing without necessarily going into it too much. So as we're going to create a search campaign, we're going to label it S pipe, whereas if it was shopping it would say shopping, if it was app it would say UAC, and if it was display or discovery it would say D. It gives us an overview of what the campaign's overall goal is before we necessarily have to go into the campaign settings. And as I don't need to do too much of a hierarchical structure right now, I'm just going to call it test for now. So again, as this is offline, it's completely fine to leave it as enabled. Anything we do here isn't live yet, essentially. So we can leave it as enabled until we press post. I would say if you don't want it to be live instantly, post it as paused. And then you can activate it in Google Ads itself, which I'll show you how to do later in this episode. But for now we'll leave it as enabled because it's not affecting anything. Then we've got our optimization score, which is how Google ranks your campaign's quality. Obviously it doesn't have one right now because it's a brand new campaign and it's offline, so Google doesn't even exist yet. As for budget, we can do campaign total if it's a video campaign. But as it's a search campaign, we're going to stick with the daily budget, and I'll put in £10 as an arbitrary number. So it will spend around about £10 daily. It can come in under, it can come in over slightly. It won't come in too much over, but as an arbitrary number, we'll just say it can spend £10 a day. Then obviously we've got our bid strategies, which is what I did my previous video on, and that I'll probably do a two-parter on, but essentially here are all of our bid strategies. For a search campaign, I'd always start with a manual bid strategy. And then slowly work into a automated bid strategy when I see what is most fit for the campaign. Often for an e-commerce campaign it would then go into maximize clicks and maximize conversions and so forth, but for now we'll leave as manual because we don't know how it's going to perform essentially yet. So yeah, as I mentioned, we've got a whole host of campaign types. Obviously Gmail is now going to merge with Discovery, but obviously we've got search, display, shopping, video, app and discovery. For today we're going to just leave it at search. I think it would take me hours to go through every setup of every campaign, and then I'd have to get into the ads and the targeting. So for today we're just going to focus on the search side of things. You can include search network, which is basically Google owned properties where the ad can show. So this includes like Google Images, Google Shopping and that side of things. It depends on your campaign and your goal, whether you want these to be active or not. Search partners includes offline Google properties like YouTube, and display network includes over 2 million websites, including apps and video. So I'd normally disable display network because it opens up the reach really broad. But if that's what you want for your campaign, then it's obviously not an issue. It's something that you can test and go through the options by yourself. Then we've also got the start date. If this is a seasonal campaign that I don't actually want to activate for a week or so, then I can obviously set the start date back a bit. Similarly with the end date, if this is a seasonal campaign and we don't want it to run for very long, I can set an end date. The ad schedule is something I'd really recommend optimizing in Google Ads, unless it's a case where you don't want it to run on weekends, or say the campaign is trying to get more calls or queries into your site, but you need someone in office to answer the queries and they're only in between 10 and 5. You can obviously put an ad schedule to say only run weekdays between 10 and 5. But I would always recommend doing that inside Google Ads. I think it's a bit easier. Similarly with devices, you can block out other devices. So this includes operating systems. So you can jump in and you could say I don't want this to run on Android or iOS or operating systems, so like Windows. You can also add bid adjustments. So if I know that my landing page has a poor mobile experience, I can limit the mobile traffic to it with a negative bid adjustment. Or if I know I have a stronger conversion rate on desktop, I can add like a positive bid adjustment here. So up the bids by that amount on those devices. Then there's the ad rotation. I always leave this at prefer best performing ads, but you can leave it to rotate ads indefinitely. This is just the way Google rotates your ads. I'd always add 3 expanded text ads and 1 responsive search ad. Responsive search ads are now the preferred ad type to use in Google, but while we have the option to create expanded text ads, I will continue to do so. I will go into all of the ad types again at a later date. Obviously, language and location targeting is something that's different for every campaign. Mine are auto set to English and UK because that's where I am, but you can obviously change this to be either a more refined space. You could say I only want it to run in the southwest of England, or you could say I want this to run in worldwide, different country, and same with languages. For targeting method, you can target people in or show interest in your targeted locations, people in or regularly in your targeted locations, or people searching for your targeted locations. So obviously this would be searching for your targeted locations is great for holiday destinations. I live in the southwest, but say I wanted to go on holiday further afield, I'd obviously be getting shown ads because I'm showing interest in or searching for those target locations. This is good for travellers, people that are regularly in a lot of locations, but that obviously doesn't really cover people that live there full time. And then we have people in or show interested in your targeted locations, which is recommended. And then you can obviously exclude as well, so you can just exclude by people in your excluded locations or people who show interest in your excluded locations. I won't go too far into dynamic ads feed right now. This is a different sort of ad type that is really in depth to explain. But yeah, then you can add your campaign goals. And yeah, obviously then we've got our app settings, which isn't applicable for a search campaign. Similarly with dynamic search ads, this is a whole video on its own. Our shopping settings aren't too applicable right now, and so on. So from about the bottom of this section, you can create your campaign without going too in depth to these, and it's something you can always track back on to optimize. So now we've got this campaign. To activate it, it's obviously already active, and if you go up here, you can change it to paused. Other than that, you can use the hotkeys of Control-Shift-P will pause it and Control-Shift-A will activate it. So that's a shortcut, or you can right-click on it and activate or pause. So this is Google Ads Editor in a nutshell. There's so much you could go into with this. Obviously, I've only scratched the surface of just a campaign. I haven't gone too far into the structure, the targeting, the keywords, the ads, the extensions, or any of that, let alone dynamic search ads. So this will definitely be a two-parter, but for creating a simple search campaign, I think I've covered most of the things that you'll need to know, and I'll see you over on the Google Ads side of things. Cool. So now we're over on the Google Ads side of things. Creating a campaign here, all you want to do is navigate to your campaign point of view and go new campaign. And then you can go into the goal of your campaign. So whether you want to drive sales, leads, traffic, product or brand consideration, awareness and reach, app promotion, or local store visits. I think I most often build e-commerce campaigns, so I almost always go for sales or leads. So if we continue with sales for now, then we go on to our campaign type. Again, if we stick with the search that we're going for, and the ways we'd like to reach our goal: website visits, you have to include your website; phone calls, include your phone number; shop visits, you'd have to enter your location; and app downloads, you have to connect it to your app. We can ignore that for now. I don't need a guide. Cool. So for our search campaign that's targeting sales, again, the first big decision we have to make is our naming structure. So if I keep with what I'm going for with my search campaign, pipe, and test, then you can say whether you want to include search network and display network, as same as last time. Oh, it's 3 million, not 2 million now. Cool. So I'd always cut out the display network unless you're really going for reach. This is like across the internet, so it's really wide. Then you've got your locations. You could go all countries, but I'll stick with UK for now. But yeah, again, you can people interested in, or people searching in it. And then again with the exclusions, so similarly as we saw in editor. And the same with languages. I'm going for English right now, but there's a whole list of languages you can go for. As for audiences, I always add my audiences as observation. If you add your audiences as targeting, it will only show your ads. So say I'm adding this audience of business services, it will only show my ad to people in that audience, whereas observation, it will show my ad to anyone, but I will gather information on the people in this audience and how they've reacted to it. So I'd always add as observation. Obviously these are all Google provided audiences, so feel free to play with this. Where it's observation, you can add any, even if they seem irrelevant. You might get some really interesting data free from it. And at a later date you can add bid adjustments per audience as well. So if over time I see that media and entertainment are performing quite poorly overall in my campaign, I can add a negative bid adjustment to them, and then obviously my ad will get shown to them less, or if they do really well, I can add a positive bid adjustment to them. And again, we've got our budget, so if we stick with the £10, that's the average it will spend each day. This is where it gets a bit confusing, because Google will always push an automated bid strategy on you. It obviously thinks we want to go for conversions, which is why it's saying off the bat, go for maximised conversions. However, an automated bid strategy can panic if you just send it down a path that it's not quite used to, especially maximised conversions. I know that it's not necessarily the rule of thumb anymore, but at launch they said to look for X amount of conversions in the last 30 days. I've heard both 30 conversions in the last 30 days and 15 in the last 30 days. They say that that's not the case anymore, but I do still see that maximised conversion struggles if it doesn't have enough data to work off of. This is machine learning at the end of the day, and it can get confused. So I'd always start on maximised conversions as mentioned, and then work up to an automated bid strategy when you're confident in the data you've got coming through. It's also one of those things where you don't have to go head first. If you ease it into it, it will perform better in the long run. I would say that eventually do move it to an automated bid strategy, but don't necessarily put it on the edge of a cliff like that. These are obviously then your conversion settings, which again is an episode all on its own, and our ad rotation as gone through in the other one. We can then add our extensions here. This is something that I'll do another episode on another time, but if you do want to add an extension and you know how, go ahead. Cool. This then takes you through the whole process that I didn't quite go into in the AdWords editor. So we've got where you build your ad groups. So obviously then you name your ad group, you set your bid, and you add your keywords. This is going quite into the hierarchical structure, more than just the setup of the campaign. Essentially what we've done so far has set up the campaign to do what it needs to do, but nothing will target or perform without any keywords or ads added. But I will go through the keywords and the ad types in my next video. Cool, so we're back to our overall campaign view, and again I've pinched a DDoS setup because I haven't actually put campaign live today. But essentially, without going too much into the ad group and the targeting and the ads behind the actual setup of a campaign, this is your layout of a live campaign. They're obviously both active at the moment because they've got their little green dot next to them, but if I wanted to pause them, I just have to go pause. And similarly, if they were paused, I'd just have to click here and press enable. So really simple to pause and activate a campaign. There's a lot more settings to create a campaign, and next time on my next video I'll be going through the behind the scenes of a campaign, so the ad groups, the keywords, the targeting, and the ads, which again I'm sure will open so many more questions. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'd be so happy to answer them, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you. Bye.